So we are recording this on the 23rd of September, 2024 at 8 p.m. British Summer Time. And I'm honored to welcome and hold space for Alan Clay's presentation on the new stars for a new era. Welcome, Alan. How are you feeling?
Good. Yes. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's beautiful to be here. Very good.
I'm so glad, so honored. So for any newbies to this topic, Alan Clay is a New Zealand-born writer and filmmaker with international reputation for his fiction and his clown teaching work from his earlier days. The books on that you can find on Amazon or any other booksellers, called Angels Can Fly and Modern Clown User Guide. How, peculiar to combine that or transition from that to deep dive to astrology. So in the astrologers community, Alan is immensely valued and loved by the astrology enthusiasts for his pioneering shared research on the astrology of dwarf planets and their impact on human consciousness, presenting his work in a highly practical manner that can be applied to everyday life experience. So you can find more about Alan's immense contribution to the evolution of astrology on his website, dwarfplanetastrology.com. And you'll find plenty of invaluable resources there, Dwarf Planet University, including a diploma course, and you can connect with his community and more. So it's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you today, Alan. I'll just give a quick intro to the talk and give you the mic right after, okay? So today's talk is based on Alan's latest book, New Stars for a New Era, a consciousness workbook for our 10 new planets. It'll give an overview of the aspects of consciousness by each of our 10 new planets. Well, we took a vote in our community earlier this month about which of the 10 planets we should go into more detail into, and Haumea was the winner. So we will zoom in on Haumea, but we will briefly touch on Ixion, Orcus, Salacia, Varuna, Haumea, Pokar, Makemake, Gong, Eris, and Sedna. All right, but as we dive deeper then on Haumea, as the higher octave of Neptune, our new goddess of rebirth and unity consciousness, who connects us to the magic of life and the oneness of our existence. We will look at exercises to practically apply the energy and at house interpretations with examples of famous people to bring them to life. So the talk has grown out of research at the Dwarf Planet University that Alan is connected to, where it is obvious that by simply making these new aspects conscious, students become empowered and their lives are transformed. And we see this also with galactic astrology as we apply or connect to the consciousness of the stars and super cosmic points as galactic center and beyond. So as we engage with these new consciousness energies to take them out of the unconscious area of action and enabling this, we can, use the talk, today's presentation by Alan, and work with his book to include conscious exercises for each planet so we can onboard their energy in our lives. And as we do, we will become empowered and our lives will be transformed. So how exciting. I can't wait to hear this, see this presentation, and then also engage with our community. Some amazing questions were sent in advance, and I'm sure some brilliant questions will be born during the call today. So welcome everyone, and Alan, take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, I will. I'll jump straight in so that we can make the most of our time here today. So today, looking at new stars for a new era, and particularly the unity consciousness of Haumea. So many astrologers believe that new planets are discovered when we're ready to incorporate the new consciousness represented by that planet into our existing consciousness. We've noticed this with the discovery of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto over the last 200 years. Now, with the discovery of 10 more planets, outer planets, we're entering a period of rapid consciousness development. So our personal consciousness develops within the collective consciousness around us, and we see this mapped out in the personal planets in our chart. These are the planets out to Saturn that are visible to the naked eye, and they address facets of our personality that are important in living day to day. When we're at inner planet consciousness, everything that's important is our feelings, our ideas and values, our agency, and the luck and material rewards that these bring us. You can't take it with you, right? And at this level, we tend not to be conscious of the action of the outer planets in our lives. So the inner planets represent aspects of personality, and the outer planets aspects of consciousness. So as each new outer planet is discovered, it represents a new aspect of consciousness that's becoming available to us. Over the last 200 years, we've discovered 3 new planets. Discovery of Uranus brought us intuitive consciousness. Discovery of Neptune, spiritual consciousness. And the discovery of Pluto, psychological consciousness. Then, since the turn of the 21st century, we've discovered another 10 planets. Discovery of so many new outer planets at one time represents a feast of new consciousness that's now available to us. The enlightenment that until now was only available to select gurus and priests after years of devout work is now open to everyone. Because these outer planets talk of consciousness, how they manifest in our lives depends on our current level of consciousness. Most people on the planet experience the outer planets as unconscious influences. At this level, these esoteric new energies are only perceived when they barge into our lives in a confrontational way, because we haven't been sensitive and adaptable in the lead-up. As we develop spiritually and we consciously onboard these new energies, they become like guides into new territory, offering us special skills or challenges depending on the aspects in our chart. At this level, rather than unconscious influences, the outer planets become like a new super consciousness. Let's look briefly at each of them, each of the ones beyond Saturn, to put them in context. As we embark on the spiritual path to make a larger sense out of the experiences in our personal lives, we start activating our Uranian and Neptunian energies and bring them into our consciousness. As we do, we begin to realize that the "you can't take it with you" approach of the inner planets is actually a delusion. Uranus brings intuitive flashes into our personal planet consciousness and begins to connect us with the collective consciousness, breaking through our Saturnian defenses to allow new impulses and connections. So the discovery of Uranus enabled consciousness growth in our lives. We can look at Uranus as the higher octave of Mercury, because he takes Mercury's ideas, communications, and curiosity and networks them at a higher spiritual level. Neptune tunes us into the bigger picture and brings into our lives. He encourages us to search for a larger meaning for our personal experiences and teaches us about faith as a way of deepening consciousness. Neptune is traditionally considered to be the higher octave of Venus, where her values and aesthetics are expressed at a more spiritual level through the imagination and psychic opening of Neptune. Which brings us to dwarf planet Pluto, who's the gatekeeper of the outer transpersonal planets. Here we must accept the limitations of our ego consciousness, let go of compulsions and unconscious constructs, and accept that change is the only constant. Pluto dissolves our ego so we can open to the new higher consciousness that is becoming available to us. Discovery of Pluto enabled the psychological understanding of our lives. This produced the shadow paradigm, where the darkness in our souls is seen to be buried in our unconscious. And the convenience of this is we don't have to address it on a day-to-day basis. But we need to ditch Pluto's shadow paradigm to consciously enable him and these other new energies in our lives. As with all the outer planets, Pluto manifests differently depending on our level of consciousness. So what we have been calling his shadow is simply how he manifests when we are at personal planet level of consciousness. As we get on the spiritual path, Pluto gives us the adaptability and resilience to mediate the transition that's occurring in our lives in each moment. And at the spiritually evolved level, we can transmute loneliness and separation into love and long-term relationships, affecting our regeneration in our lives. Pluto now has two new brothers who share his orbit as well as his angle to the ecliptic. They also share his gravitational resonance with Neptune, as all three make 2 orbits of the Sun to every 3 of Neptune's. Pluto's new brothers are, however, polar opposites. The first is the seeker consciousness of Ixion, who enables us to develop our authenticity following Pluto's action to dissolve our ego center. We are one with the universe, but still exist as an individual. And that dichotomy is bridged by being like authentically ourselves in our contact with the divine. Ixion encourages us to be a passionate but lawless follower of our heart, or loins, depending on our consciousness level. Ixion is always encouraging us to ask the question, are the rules we're playing by the right ones? He urges us to push the boundaries and ask for forgiveness afterwards rather than permission before. As we develop a spiritual approach, we enable our moral compass and learn to honor the bad girl or bad boy energy inside us and follow our heart. This level, Ixion encourages us to be authentically ourselves while being sensitive to the unspoken agreements in our relationships, so we know how far we can go. The second brother, Orcus, opens us to karmic consciousness. He teaches us to align with the spiritual creed and understand the karmic process of life. A creed expresses the shared beliefs of a religious community by summarizing the core tenets. These tenets are simple and globally applicable, providing guide rails to help us navigate life. Orcus is Pluto's straight-talking brother. He's the master of integrity at the highest level. But at the personal planet level, he can also encourage us to engage in double talk and deception. As we develop spiritually, however, Orcus gives us a self-sufficiency that will nourish us through the long and difficult work that we sometimes find necessary for personal evolution. This level, as we deal with the shadow side of our lives, we become accountable for our deeds and our actions. And at the highest level, we gain the shamanic ability to transmute shadow into light. Everything contains shadow, and therefore presents us with an opportunity to transmute shadow, producing a new, more spiritual whole. Next, we develop higher love consciousness and learn to evaluate our options with Salacia, who gives us the power to foresee opportunities and find the appropriate time to embrace them. She also gives us a self-protective quality that helps us weather both the real and the psychic storms in our lives. And she enables us to take a leap of faith, especially when we know we're going to be profoundly transformed by the experience. At the personal planet level, however, Salacia's liminal nature enables us to pick up on the sexual energy around us. We may have an erotic fascination or interest and engage in socially unacceptable, even illicit sexual activity. If this vital energy is blocked, we might feel out of control or incapable of changing our situation. However, as we develop spiritually, she enables us to remove the barriers to happiness in our lives. And we learn to approach life with an easy sense of humor that helps us get through the difficult times. And at the highest level, Salacia is about bringing true love into our lives and empowering us spiritually. Then we embrace mastery consciousness with Varuna. We learn to devote ourselves to something so deeply that over time we develop a sovereignty that is built on vast experience. We can look at Varuna as the higher octave of Saturn. Where Saturn rules by control and through laws and restriction, Varuna has a natural sovereignty, but we have to claim this through action. Sovereignty is a dance between our intention and the collective psyche. We have to claim it, and at the same time, others have to agree to give it to us. Over time, through this dance, we gain support and notability for our work. Once we're on the spiritual path, Varuna teaches us to stand in the center of our lives and own the results of our dance with karma and dharma. And at the spiritually evolved level, we can develop an inner conscious authority as we learn to practice compassion in action. This level, we're focused on the higher good, and we likely have a mastery over the flow of consciousness in our lives. Indeed, we may experience ongoing revelations and may become a sort of sage in some area. Next, we connect to Source and embrace unity consciousness with Haumea, who works at a spiritual level to nourish and replenish our lives. She connects us to the psychic unity that exists across space and time, and with the oneness of our existence. She does this in each moment simply by reigniting in us the magic of being alive. She encourages us to live in the present and to savor every moment of life, allowing us to appreciate the beauty of the world around us and within us. Haumea is the higher octave of Neptune, turning his psychic opening into real psychic connection. At the personal planet level, however, this can manifest as a lack of connection, a sort of spiritual alienation. However, as we develop spiritually, she gives us a direct link with the soul level, and as we deepen our connection to Source, we learn to facilitate a constant renewal in our own lives and in the lives of others. This level, we understand that the bountiful universe manifests through us, and we learn to enable this by leaving our ego at the door and trusting in the divine process. So we're coming back to Haumea, obviously, after we've just run through all of these ones. So then we develop our spirit consciousness with Kuiper, who in myth sings and dances the world into existence. Kuiper encourages us to find a practice to bring spirit into our physical lives. Song and dance are practices that call spirit into our lives, as are activities like meditation, yoga, bushwalks, even sport. Anything can be a practice to enrich our lives with spirit. That's what we're realizing as we're onboarding Kuiper. Kuiper is also the song and dance we tell ourselves about our lives. Our unique song and dance is a spirit story which underpins who we are. As we develop spiritually, we learn to embrace a spirit of discovery and see life as a dynamic meditation where we can see opportunities in real time and act on them. At this level, Kuiper becomes the higher octave of Jupiter, lifting Jupiter's dumb luck into a smart luck through this meditation practice. And at the spiritually evolved level, we see the song and dance of spirit in everything, and we understand that we are part of a rich chorus of spirit which underpins the physical world. This allows us to manifest spirit as required to bring order out of chaos and create harmony in our lives. Next, we develop systems consciousness and learn to innovate with Maki, who drives spirit into our lives, opening us to the new richness of this sacred consciousness. He's a spiritual trickster, allowing us to play with the area of our lives signified by his position in our chart. He encourages us to see ourselves as an organic whole, as well as a member of a team. Through participation and understanding the teamwork process, we learn how to be sensitive enough to tune into our fellow team members. This interaction gives us a worldview built from our experience and a view of our place in that world. As we develop spiritually, Maki calls spiritual nourishment into our lives and gives us a devotional focus that borders on genius. We can look at him as the higher octave of Uranus, lifting Uranus's intuition into a rich understanding. This level, we're able to alchemically break down existing ideas into their component parts and put them back together in new configurations. We understand the context behind the ideas, which enables us to be playful in this process. And at the spiritually evolved level, we can see the big picture and integrate it into our personal devotional focus at such a deep level that everything becomes a valuable creative resource for our growth. Then we learn empathic consciousness with Gong, who encourages us to participate in the marketplace of life. He enables us to feel inside other people and walk a mile in their shoes so we may see the world through their eyes. In order to empathize with others, however, we have to get out of our own emotions. So at the personal planet level, he can encourage us to be emotionally self-indulgent and to lash out in an attempt to get our own way. This level, we may feel overwhelmed by our emotions and unable to see a clear path forward through the morass of our personal feelings. As we develop a more spiritual approach, we begin to understand that we live in a symbiotic relationship with others, and that our divine work is to let go of the base emotions so that we can be sensitive to the emotional community in which we are nestled and open to the empathic support of others. At this level, we can pool our energy to achieve collective aims as we learn to channel our emotions and mold our psychic space to improve our productivity. And at the spiritually evolved level, we can nurture the emotional and the psychic bonds between us. Next, we come to diversity consciousness with Eris, as we learn to value everything and everyone for who they are. Eris encourages us to simultaneously look at ourselves in an uncompromising way and also to be inclusive in our worldview. We tend to fool ourselves and overlook our shortcomings just to get through each day. But Eris draws her strength from the unflinching nature of her understanding. It's all valuable to her and will only be complete and embrace our full power when we accept our multifaceted nature. At the personal planet level, Eris encourages us to engage in discord and strife, so we learn to stop fooling ourselves or stop being fooled. As we adopt a more spiritual approach, we understand that our strife can be dealt with simply by accepting opposing points of view. So simple. At this level, she enables us to see clearly without preconceptions and helps us to keep body and mind in harmony so that health and happiness prevails. And at the highest level, she's a spirit guide, transmuting life into love and bringing sacred wisdom into our lives. Eris is the higher octave of Pluto, lifting his transformative energy into a fierce grace. This gives us a female power, which is gentle, but which rises to meet the needs of any challenge. Pluto's power, but male power. Now we've got a female power. Finally, we embrace the soul consciousness of Sedna, who is always trying to get us onto the spiritual path. She represents our soul's path of destiny. If we accept that our soul incarnates over a number of lifetimes and that it has a purpose to grow through these incarnations, then that sole purpose for this life is shown by the placement of Sedna. In that area of our lives, we transcend to a new holistic spiritual consciousness where we can allow love and harmony. As we develop spiritually, Sedna teaches us to keep our heart open in what we're increasingly realizing is a sort of hell that we're currently living through. We're still very early in our consciousness development as a species, and we have to keep our heart open for our benefit and for everyone else's benefit in this difficult phase. To enable this, Sedna encourages us to nurture our sense of humour. Humour is a wonderful tool on the spiritual path because it allows us to release baggage and lighten our load on our soul's path of destiny. This level, Sedna encourages us to beat our drum and sing our song to life. As we step up to do the soul-based work that we're here to do, we move through a fated transcendence to a more transpersonal consciousness. At the spiritually evolved level, we can embrace our spiritual destiny and joyfully do what our soul wants to do. This level, she brings us transcendent peace and the ability to nurture abundance. When we're in tune with our soul needs, our material needs manifest in our lives in each moment. May not be what we want, but it is what we need. And as we have the courage to embrace and nurture that, we open to the source of abundance in our lives. All right, so that's a quick run through of the 10. That's actually the second chapter in my book, New Stars for a New Era. Now we're going to jump to the Haumea chapter, have a look at her meaning astrologically, and then through the houses, because the houses are where we see, we'll talk about this as it comes. I can take questions very quickly if there's anything on this that's coming up for anyone that, I'm not going to, we'll have time at the end for lots of questions, but sometimes when things come up is the best time to deal with them.
Thank you, Alan. So far in the comments, people are sharing their placements, their appreciation and so on. So I think we can leave the questions till the end and you can keep going. If that's all right with everyone, unless something pops up, feel free to.
That's good. Beautiful. Perfect. Yes, your placements is good to know. And if you don't know, go online and try and find your house position, because that'll be interesting when we go through the house interpretations. Because the houses is where we do see it most clearly in our lives. All right, so let's jump into looking at Haumea. So Haumea is the planet of rebirth, who works at a spiritual level to nourish and replenish our lives. She connects us to the psychic unity that exists across space-time and with the oneness of our existence. And she does this in each moment simply through the magic of being alive. It's magic. She encourages us to live in the present and to savor every moment of our life, allowing us to appreciate the beauty of the world around us and within us. Representing a psychic shift from the worldview that separates us from nature to the embodied recognition and power of being one with nature, Haumea gives us the power to create and regenerate our lives when we align with the natural world and its rhythms. When we connect with our psychic center, we're able to protect those we love, and we can embody the divinity in each moment. Her love is all-encompassing and unconditional, but to enable this, we have to leave our ego at the door. We can think of her as the higher octave of Neptune, where Neptune's psychic opening has the potential to blossom into real psychic connection with Haumea, a connection to the soul level. We often understand soul on the individual level, yet when we have evolved and embraced Haumea in our lives, the soul level includes not only all of humanity, but all beings. We are all one. Life is a process for Haumea, a process of rejuvenation. She is always catalyzing rebirth in our lives. She does this by encouraging a spirit of play within the sacred work that we're doing. Play requires trust in the bigger picture. We need to allow ourselves to let go and explore the myriad of creative possibilities without judgment. And that way we deepen the sacred. So her energy is playful and creative, symbolizing a constant renewal and a joy in life. When we experience Haumea's psychic connection unconsciously, however, it can come with a similar righteousness to Neptune, but with much more psychic force behind it. As a result, we might ride roughshod over everyone or stick our neck out about something, and so get ourselves into trouble. So she also talks of the day-to-day pressures we experience that might reshape us and the danger that it all might spin out of control. Or even more likely, we find no connection to the psychic source, so our life shrivels up and we live in a sort of spiritual starvation, a starvation of life energy. At the unconscious level, we are likely to try and fill this lack of meaningful connection by indulging in the hollow pleasures of consumer society. But no amount of money can buy the connection we seek, so this just leaves us feeling even more alienated. At this level, we may respond by being overly dramatic and attention-seeking, or by making claims of martyrdom. We become so desperate for meaningful connection and achieve it. And there is always a danger of our drama could spin out of control and bring everything in our lives crashing down. As we develop a more spiritual approach, we learn to trust in the life process and deepen our connection to the psyche through allowing the magic of being in each moment. We all know these special moments when we're out in nature or in the arms of our love or deep in meditation, where we feel the life force chorusing through us. This psychic connection to the oneness of life is the magic that Haumea opens us to in each moment. With Haumea, there are times when we might pick up too much psychic energy and need to withdraw, absorb, and refresh through rest, meditation, or sleep. With awareness and application, we can learn to offload the non-nutritive more readily and connect with a never-failing source of psychic sustenance. Haumea talks about being part of a family born of a collision with reality, and she teaches us the value of nurturing the disparate aspects of our psychic identity. She throws us into experiences where we collide with consensus reality, but in that collision, we find a like-hearted community. This is a Haumea community. In these situations, we experience our shared interests, which creates a sense of family that transcends biology. Thus, at the spiritual level, she encourages us to find a community, to connect with a family of souls who can play important roles in our lives, and to find a new way of living together with them. These people may be spread across the planet and may not be the obvious choice, but our connection with them will psychically nourish us and them. In today's world, where many of us are seeking a sense of belonging, of connection to land or place, Haumea also talks about migration to a new home. We have increased levels of migration from political persecution and accelerating global climate change. And Haumea is here to remind us of what joins us together. Her spirituality is inherent in the embodied experience. It transcends the dualistic mind of black or white, right or wrong, belief or non-belief. We simply know in our bones that we are interconnected. And as we deepen this contact with Source, we learn to facilitate a constant renewal in our lives and in others' lives through this connection. We learn to ride the psychic waves and the lava flows that arise in each moment, and to be accepting and creative with those opportunities. This level, we understand that the bountiful universe manifests through us when we are open to it. And to enable this, we know we have to leave our ego behind and trust in the divine process. Keynote. Haumea is always bringing renewal into our lives. But we have to welcome this and gracefully surrender the old, so there is space for the new to grow. However, our sense of security often derives from the possessions and routines that we've built up over many years. And as a result, we can become very attached to the old. When we are rooted in the past for our security, we protect ourselves from any regeneration because we feel it will challenge the foundations of our world. But regeneration is essential for a healthy life. No living thing can maintain a stasis without growth. So we have to be open to the growth. We have to welcome it and nurture it. When we hang on blindly to the old, the only way the new can be birthed is through crisis and disaster. By desperately hanging on to the past, we actually are calling crisis and disaster into our lives to help us let go and allow the necessary rebirth. When we cling, we are choosing to ignore the signals that change is required. At any time, some part of our reality is obsolete or creaking in some way, and new psychic opportunities are germinating. The challenge is to open ourselves to this germination and deal with the creaking piece of reality at the same time. If we trust that this is a natural process, a natural growth process, we can gracefully surrender the old and simultaneously embrace the new. All right, you probably understand this. If you don't, work with the chart. Your birth chart is divided into 12 houses, which represent different areas of your life, such as home or relationships. The houses focus the ethereal outer planet energies so we can more clearly see them in our lives. Bear in mind that these new conscious energies manifest in our lives differently depending on our current level of consciousness. And you will find that Haumea has been interpreted in each house differently from those for those at the personal planet level of consciousness, which we'll call the unconscious level, or for those on the spiritual path and those at the spiritually evolved level. We're all working at all levels, and we're likely to see ourselves reflected in the interpretations at each level to varying degrees. The aim is to encounter the higher manifestations of each planet in our lives, which we do by developing our spiritual perspective. Right, so Haumea in the first house. So Haumea's psychic connection in the first house is to the center of ourselves. Planets in this house influence our personality, and with Haumea here, the magic of being infuses our body and our views on life with a rich creative energy. The personal planet level of consciousness, however, this can manifest as an extremely egocentric approach. And because this house is about how others perceive us, we may come across as being intense and very self-involved. As we adopt a more spiritual approach, however, we can develop a willful self-awareness which mitigates this, together with a rock-solid integrity that others can feel. At the spiritual level, this placement nourishes our creativity, our adaptability, and our resourcefulness with the life-giving qualities of Haumea. Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen is an example. His magic of being inspired numerous generations. His fables of morality were translated into more than 100 languages, more than any book other than the Bible. And exemplifying the self-involvement of this house, he also wrote 3 autobiographies. As we deepen our contact with Source, we learn to trust our gut instincts and develop a soulful confidence in our work. At this level, the life energy is pouring through us, and we can nourish others with it and may have the ability to foster psychic unity. Like New Zealander Faye Blake Cossar, who runs an astrology school in Amsterdam. Her master's dissertation offers a life cycle model for organizational development, and her work focuses on making clients feel safe while applying her extensive training in inner child integration therapy. Second house, jumping. All right, with Haumea in the second house, we can bring about a material rejuvenation, both in our own lives and in the world around us. We have the psychic power to manifest what we want in the real world when we open to Source and believe in ourselves. At the personal planet consciousness level, we may have a bit of a bulldozer approach to our security needs, however, and to our sensual pleasures. This may be successful in the short term, but things like bullying are not sustainable practices for healthy life, nor is relying on non-paid volunteers, fans, or devotees for support. With this placement, we need to ensure that we are giving as much as we are receiving on both the material and the psychic levels, and that we remain faithful to our values. As we develop a more spiritual approach, we likely have a deep appreciation of our sensual experience and of nature, and we understand the humanizing and social function of art. Because the second house is about cultivation and Haumea is about fostering and fertility, this is a very creative and generative placement. Like Mae West, who wrote most of her own material, and became an icon of sexual power and femininity. She was so faithful to her values of free, creative and sexual expression that she was prosecuted for moral charges because her first Broadway play, Sex, depicted homosexuality. She bailed her cast out, but she chose to stay in jail herself to garner the publicity. We see the generative power of Haumea in this house in her status as the second highest paid person in the US at the height of her career. As we deepen our contact with Source, this can bring a bountiful process of renewal into our lives, which provides us with everything we need. And our sense of self-worth can also enjoy a constant state of renewal. At this level, we understand that psychic energy underpins everything in the physical world, and we can transcend the material desires of our ego. Like revered Indian spiritual teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj, whose teachings centered on the development of spiritual insight, understanding the illusory nature of the world and finding liberation from suffering. His core message was that by recognizing and abiding in the eternal consciousness within, individuals could find true peace, freedom, and spiritual growth. Haumea in the second house. He taught that identifying with the body and its desires was a hindrance to spiritual growth. Instead, he advocated for a shift in consciousness, recognizing oneself as the unchanging witness of all experiences, including the aging and decay of the physical body. Jumping to the third house. The renewal in the third house is in our ideas, our communications, and our immediate environment. Haumea is always searching for spiritual answers, and in this house, her curiosity infuses all our communications. If we can see the forest for the trees. At personal planet level, because this house talks about the lower mind, we may get lost in the trees, lost in the detail, and feel insecure in these contexts. We may make up for this by demanding attention or by making claims of martyrdom and sacrifice to secure attention. As we develop a more spiritual approach, there's likely a renewal process occurring in our thinking patterns, which keeps them fresh and relevant and gives us the insight to see the divinity of human beings and the oneness of our existence. Like Eric Young, who wrote Fear of Flying, which is controversial for its depiction of female sexuality, female liberation, and women's search for personal and emotional fulfillment outside of traditional roles and expectations. Her work catalyzed the development of second-wave feminism, fighting for reproductive rights and gender equality in the workplace and against domestic violence and sexual harassment. She was married 4 times, embodying Haumea's ability to be reborn. And as we deepen our contact with Source, an unshakable personal inner knowing emerges. Haumea's ability to reconstruct, redefine, and transform, especially regarding consciousness, is strengthened with this placement. Like American musician Van Morrison, who Rolling Stone magazine commented had the striking imagination of a consciousness that is visionary in the strongest sense of the word. He described himself as a Christian mystic and has investigated various religions which serve as an inspiration for his music. Jumping to the 4th house. 4th house is the base of our consciousness, the sacred ground in which our consciousness is rooted. And with Haumea here, we have a psychic connection to the oneness of humanity embedded with that consciousness. At the personal planet level, however, this house shows the karmic baggage we brought with us into this life. And Haumea's placement here might make us a little too self-centered and a little too invested in getting our own way, so we adopt a forceful approach. This house talks about instinctive behavior, and Haumea is about opening doors within us. So our level of consciousness is crucial in seeing and evaluating those doors. Indian-born author Salman Rushdie has this placement. His work primarily deals with connections, disruptions, and migrations between Eastern and Western civilizations. His book, The Satanic Verses, generated debate in the Muslim world and provoked a backlash. The supreme leader of Iran issued a religious decree calling for his death. As a result, for many years, he was forced to go into hiding and adopt a reclusive lifestyle confined in the sacred space of his 4th house for his own safety. More recently, he's come out and been attacked. He's now back, I think, in his 4th house. As we develop a more spiritual approach, we can bring the spiritual wealth and rejuvenation of Haumea into our home and our inner emotional security. For those who believe in reincarnation, 4th house gives us clues to our karmic lesson for this lifetime. And with Haumea here, the lesson is to reconnect with the psychic unity of humanity across time and space, to feel the oneness of existence. Margaret Atwood has this placement. Her written works encompass themes such as gender and identity, religion and myth, the power of language, and climate change. Her sci-fi book, The Handmaid's Tale, explores the interdependence of the sexes in a futuristic dystopian world, causing the reader to question the usury nature of our relationships and move beyond them into embodying psychic unity. As we deepen our contact with Source, we create a sacred space where we can base our consciousness. This base is a fertile ground where we are always able to find nourishment for our higher consciousness. And our higher consciousness can always find the companionship of like-hearted souls. Jumping to the 5th house. So the 5th house is all about being ourselves and enjoying it. And with Haumea here, we're likely to be very creative in this process. With this placement, our joy will have a regenerative effect, both on ourselves and on others. The personal planet level of consciousness, however, we may come on too strong in our love affairs, our creative self-expression, and our parenting. There is a risk of being overly dramatic and attention-seeking as a cover for our lack of real psychic connection. And this is the house of risk-taking, so we must be careful not to feel any lack of connection with others with hollow pleasures like gambling. As we develop a more spiritual approach, we can learn to bring a spirit of play into our romantic affairs, our creativity, and our parenting, to take the risks necessary to grow in these areas. Like Philip K. Dick, whose fiction explored philosophical and social questions such as the nature of reality, perception, human nature, and identity. Embodying Haumea, he was married 5 times. Later in his life, following a series of mystical experiences, his work moved into the realms of theology and metaphysics. Then, as we deepen our contact with Source, we gain a passionate understanding of the humanizing and the social functions of art. At this level, the fostering ability and fertility of Haumea gives us a rich bounty of joy and love as the creative medium of our work. Centering in love, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Swiss psychiatrist and author, is noted for her work in renewing our relationship to dying and death. Her belief in the continuity of life's spirit through the experience of death enabled her to assist more than 20,000 people with their passage into an afterlife. 6th house. With Haumea in the 6th house of routine tasks and duties, every moment can be alive with spirit and in touch with the magic of being. With this placement, we have a magic touch which can breathe life into anything we turn our hand to, and particularly to the services we provide. The personal planet level of consciousness, however, we may not be aware of our gifts and worry about our lack of meaningful connection could manifest in our lives as anxiety disorders. We have to be mindful not to play the hypochondriac or be attention-seeking to compensate. This house also talks about our method of responding to everyday crises. And at this level, we may ride roughshod over people because of the urgency of our immediate demand. As we develop a more spiritual approach, Haumea gives us the willfulness to seek a strong psychic connection in each moment and the regenerative strength required in moments of crisis. We see this in Farida, Queen of Egypt, who liberated women in Egyptian culture from their secluded role as mothers to become participants in society. She did this by taking a public role as queen in her marriage, which also freed the other royal women from the seclusion of the harem. She later gave up the status of queen in order to divorce her husband and gain her personal freedom. As we deepen our contact with Source, Haumea gives us the courage to see the divinity of human beings and the oneness of existence in each moment. This level, we have an ability to reach out into the psychic soil around us and connect with both a larger wisdom and an unshakable person in our knowing. Like Reinhold Ebertin, considered the founder of cosmobiology, which holds that cosmic energies influence biological processes on Earth. Of course, this influence is evidenced by the moon's impact on our waters. His work in this branch of astrology integrates psychology, medicine, sociology, and biology into an understanding of the rhythms of our daily lives. Okay, into the social houses. So the 7th house is the house of our one-to-one relationships. And with Haumea here, our search for spirit is answered through our relationships. 7th house relationships are about cooperation and sharing, and they generally serve some functional purpose in our larger social community. The personal planet level of consciousness, however, we may experience quarrels and separations in our relationships if we're not tuning into our partner. The lack of respect implied by our insensitivity can breed open enemies, and lawsuits. Like American filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola, who had a roller coaster career, which forced him into bankruptcy 3 times in 10 years as a result of bad investments of his early film profits. His iconic movie, The Godfather, nevertheless had a defining effect on modern culture. He was initially reluctant to direct it until he focused on the deeper themes of family and capitalism in America. As we develop a more spiritual approach, we engage in diplomacy, which opens doors for us and others. Haumea's renewal comes both through a reconnection with our inner fountain of youth and with the collective psyche through our one-to-one relationships. Like Jane Fonda, who has undergone a variety of reinventions in her life, including actor, exercise guru, feminist, political activist, author, businesswoman, and wife to a number of famous men. The title of her autobiography encapsulates her regenerative power. Prime time, love, health, sex, fitness, friendship, spirit, making the most of all of your life. As we deepen our contact with Source, we can reach a state of psychic equilibrium and enjoy rock-solid integrity in our contacts and all official matters. This level, we're able to connect with souls who can play important roles in our lives, psychically nourishing us and them as we find a new way of living together. 8th house. 8th house rules the processes and things by which we transform and become more powerful, including through sexual interaction. So this placement gives us a fountain of renewal to assist that empowerment. The personal planet level of consciousness, transformation usually requires some type of death, loss, or injury first. This is the house of karma, where we make personal sacrifices for the collective. And at this level, we may be a bit of a drama queen, because Haumea likes to make claims of martyrdom and sacrifice to secure attention. Anything goes. Or we could abuse our psychic sensitivity by using other people's energy, taking advantage of non-paid volunteers, fans, or devotees. However, as we develop a more spiritual approach, the regenerative nature of both the house and the planet work together to allow a flowing spring of spirit into our lives, keeping us in touch with the magic of being. Like Masaru Emoto, original thinker, Japanese artist, and author of The Hidden Messages in Water. His extensive research and photography of the frozen crystal form of water gave humanity striking visuals of how water is affected at the molecular level by what's around it. Or like Jane Goodall, who is the world's leading expert in the social life of chimpanzees. She observed behaviors that we consider only human, like hugging, kissing, and even tickling, saying it isn't only human beings who have personality, who are capable of rational thought and emotions like joy and sorrow. In later years, she founded Roots and Shoots, which brings together youth worldwide to work on environmental conservation and humanitarian issues. As we deepen our contact with Source, we strengthen our occultability, understanding the give and take required to maintain this flow. At this level, our sensitivity to collective psychic energies can bring us the clairvoyance to see how these energies will play out. We understand that the bountiful universe manifests through us when we are open to it. And to enable this, we know we have to leave our ego at the door and trust in the divine process. 9th house, Haumea is always searching for spiritual answers. And in the 9th house, this is about the experiences we encounter when we search for the meaning of things. So this placement sends us on a rich exploration of life. At the personal planet level of consciousness, we could be locked into belief systems and experience head-on collisions with others who believe differently. Or we could feel insecure in intellectual areas, unable to make enough spiritual connection to make any sense out of our experience. However, Haumea has an ability to reconstruct, redefine, and transform, especially regarding consciousness. And as we develop a more spiritual approach, we're able to discover larger fields of social existence by synthesizing known data in a new way. Like Patch Adams, who maintains that humor and joy are more important than any drug or therapy in the healing process. Recovering from psychological problems himself, he went back to school to become a doctor and set up the Gesundheit Institute, where he charges no fees, has no malpractice insurance, and lives with his patients in a country farm setting. At the Institute, medicine is integrated with the performing arts, crafts, agriculture, nature, recreation, and social service. As we deepen our contact with Source, this placement can bring an unshakable personal inner knowing and put us in touch with the magic of being, accentuating Haumea's profound idealism and sense of freedom as the highest principle. We see this in Icelandic musician Björk's political support of liberation movements for Kosovo and Greenland. She also supports the individuality of young artists by helping them launch their careers. Her music is unique, and she and her fans share an alternative view of the universe. I think there's a spiritual element in everything. Walking down the street can be spiritual, or it can be silly. It's up to the person. I can definitely say that making and listening to music are spiritual experiences for me. 10th house. 10th house encompasses the most public areas of our lives and the career that we develop. And with Haumea here, we're in tune with society and are likely to be a reformer. The personal planet level of consciousness, however, we may have trouble connecting with the psychic oneness of society. And so may come on too strong with our answers for others, alienating them and making our job harder. But as we develop a more spiritual approach, we can open ourselves to this oneness that's all around us and draw strength from this, understanding the bigger picture. This house includes the social foundations of recognition for achievements and sense of duty to society. Haumea's placement here can bring the insight to see the divinity of human beings in all our social activities. Like Scottish observational comedian Billy Connolly, known for his crass use of language and reference to human bodily functions. His irreverence dissolves the social boundaries, uniting us as humans. I think it's time for people to get together, not split apart. The more people stay together, the happier they'll be, he says. As we deepen our contact with Source, we can embody this divinity and develop the spiritual wealth and rock-solid integrity that is the basis of the community power and prestige of this house. This level, we feel the life energy, and we can use this connection to enable social rejuvenation. Like Italian educator Maria Montessori, who developed the Montessori method, which emphasizes the development of a child's own initiative and natural abilities through practical play. This method provides educators with a new understanding of child development that allows children to develop at their own pace. We're all different. 11th house, racing through. The psychic connection with Haumea in the 11th house is to our community, to our collective consciousness. With this placement, we will gather a soul family and find a new way of living together with them. These people may be spread across the planet and may not be the obvious choice, but our connection will psychically nourish us and them. The personal planet level of consciousness, however, this can manifest as a lack of connection because our sense of belonging is inward looking. We may seek indiscriminate connection with friends or groups, or force a connection because we are so desperate for our belonging that we do not evaluate friends or groups appropriately. As we develop a more spiritual approach, however, we can become more sensitive to this process and more aware of consciousness. At this level, the collective consciousness provides a rich field of opportunity for the profound idealism of Haumea, and we will actively seek out groups with like-minded views. Leading Mexican artist Frida Kahlo exemplifies this profound idealism. I have a great restlessness about my paintings, mainly because I want to make it useful for the revolutionary communist movement. Until now, I have managed simply an honest expression of my own self. Today, she is regarded as an icon for the feminist movement, the LGBTQ+ community, and for Chicanos, the culture which embodies the in-between nature of cultural hybridity that is neither fully American nor Mexican. As we deepen our contact with Source, the love and charity of this house combines with the spiritual wealth of Haumea to enable us to redefine and transform the collective consciousness and foster the magic of being in our lives and the lives of those around us. Like Leonard Cohen, whose spirituality permeated all of his work. He evolved from a struggling writer to a successful singer and songwriter, and then became a Zen monk. Through his music, we shared in his personal spiritual journey, from an alienated space as a younger person to a strong connection with the magic of being alive. His music is known for being bittersweet, yet gracefully expressing the dark night of the soul. 12th house. So this is the house of the collective unconscious and of spiritual realization. And Haumea's placement here gives the potential for deep spiritual connection. There's also the house of the subconscious, where the hidden self, which is the hidden self that exists apart from our physical everyday reality. So at the personal planet level of consciousness, we may not be in touch with this side of ourselves. As a result, we may inadvertently expose ourselves or have issues of privacy. Finding refuge, seclusion, or retreat may help us to reconnect with our inner magic of being. This is the house of spiritual realization, and Haumea is spiritual wealth. As we adopt a more spiritual approach, we can develop a psychic connection to the unconscious, and over time, this will enable luck and miracles in our lives. Like musician Arlo Guthrie, who bought an old church and made it into a charitable centre that serves people of all religions through free lunches, aid for family farmers, and services for abused children and the elderly. As a renowned folk singer-songwriter, he also holds a number of fundraising concerts each year that support families living with life-threatening illnesses. His personal exploration of spirituality includes Catholicism, Judaism, and Hinduism. As we deepen our contact with Source, the supportive, fostering energies of Haumea combine with the healing forgiveness and peacefulness of this house to allow a deep spiritual connection with the oneness of existence. Like Annie Besant, who was deeply religious as a child and longed to serve humanity, which she did as president of the Theosophical Society for 25 years. In that role, she fostered the young Jiddu Krishnamurti as the new spiritual avatar through her World Teacher Project. She had a great love of ritual and ceremony and wrote more than 300 books and pamphlets. Oh, and there we are, suddenly bang. And that's brought us through so we were just going through the Haumea chapter in this book, New Stars for a New Era. It gives us an example of how the book, and I'm obviously here to sell the book. I think some of you have already bought the book. I've got some questions already which suggest you have. And so that's lovely. Thank you so much. And many people have, and we're getting really good responses to it.
Beautiful.
Okay, yeah, so I think perhaps I'll leave that up while before we go on to the charts and while we talk. Yes, is there any questions or
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alan. Yes, some really, really good observations in the comment section and great questions. First of all, I want to highlight that today we have Haumea conjunct Venus in transit. So Ulrika Sullivan highlighted that. What a perfect divine timing. I mean, you cannot make it up. You know, we planned this day completely unrelated to what's going on in the sky. And look, here we are diving deeper into Haumea, and she's conjunct Venus. I just love these synchronicities, and it happens all the time in the astrologer's life, right? Isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely beautiful. Totally. Yes.
Divine timing.
Of course. That's right. Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, so first question that came up several times is about the orbs. What is the orb of influence that you consider?
Good. Yes. I'll move on to a chart. No, let's not do that yet. That'll take us into a different discussion. Yes, so I go for us, you know, for people who are sensitive and sort of working spiritually already, I actually use a 6-degree orb for the main aspects. But generally, I would use a 2 to 3 degree orb. So if someone's not working spiritually already, I would use a narrow orb. And I use sort of, you know, 2-degree orb for like the inconjunct and the biquintiles and
very good. That's very helpful. So it's a matter of personal preference, and some people, I know one person here considered as wide as 10-degree orb for her, and she felt a significance there.
Well, if you feel a significance, I would absolutely use it. It's that simple. I mean, it's the aspects are just there to generalize the energies between the planets. All the planets are relating to all the other planets in our chart all the time. But the particular angles, particular aspects, obviously over time people see, oh, it's stronger with that, you know, and it's that sort of influence and so on. So,
and would the same answer apply for transiting delineation of transits, you know?
Look, I find, yes, I mean, to some extent, but I mean, I tend to just use a 1-degree orb for transits and two degrees if I'm feeling so, but you can feel it up to 4, absolutely. No, I'm with you, or even 5. You know, it's sort of. But the thing with the transits of these outer planets, they take many years, and so they're phases in our lives. And those exact hits may correlate with events and so on. That's true, but those events can come anywhere in that phase, and it's a phase, so it changes over time. That's
understood. Really good, thank you. Another good question about significance of returns. So, for example, as we speak today, one of the viewers has 2 of the dwarf planets returning to the position in the natal chart of the same object. So how would you interpret that?
Look, well, I would actually question whether that's possible, because the orbits of the outer planets is too long for our life. They're all beyond Pluto, so it's you know, it's 250 years plus. And for
so whoever asked may need to revisit and recalculate what they're looking at. They may have actually been looking at both natal charts of the same. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. You may have put the natal chart around the outside rather than the current positions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Another quite common one.
We won't get.
Yeah. We won't be experiencing that since the transits are so long, 250 years.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the placements in empty houses? So there's no personal planet or the outer planet in the house. So a person is used to seeing an empty house in their natal chart, and now there's these 10 new dwarf planets. How does that affect?
How does that work? So all of the planets, the ones that we're working with now, they've all been there, you know, throughout time, and been influencing us unconsciously. So you have had an influence from a planet. The thing with houses is that area of your life still is working, if you've got a planet there or not. It's not really, the planet just emphasizes and gives a certain direction to the work of that house, or how that house manifests in your life. It's the sign on the cusp of the house that's key to giving you sort of the understanding of how that house is manifesting in your life. And if there's a planet there, then it's been manifesting, then that accentuates or changes how that house is manifesting. So now, you have sensed it, I would suggest, in the past. You just haven't been conscious of it. So it's a matter of sort of feeling into that new placement that you've got there. And it's the same if you've got, say, a conjunction, let's say, of one of the new planets with your existing planets. You've thought of that existing planet as the combination, and you've read the new planet into the existing planet because you've been feeling it. So your interpretation of the existing planet is not the same as everyone else's, and you have to separate out the new one, but you've got an access to it through that conjunction. So
yes, and I would just add to that. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I would just add to that you, as you reflect on the meaning and delineation of the dwarf planets, as described in Alan's book, you may realize that in that empty house, you've actually been learning and realizing these higher expressions of dwarf planets. You've reached that point already in your life, but you didn't make an association to the dwarf planet. But now when you see, there's oh my God, yeah, now I see why I'm actually feeling that way. It's certainly my case for Haumea and Quawar in the 5th house in Virgo. When you were going deeper into Haumea, that's my empty house in Virgo, but it's absolutely all about everything you said about Haumea. So it's just beautiful to make that connection now.
Oh, beautiful. So good to hear. Yes, totally. Yes, that's exactly it. We discover these new planets, we put them in our chart, and we see the richer us that we've always sort of understood was there, but haven't been able to sort of find in the chart.
Yeah, beautiful. Another great observation by Ulrika Sullivan in our community is about the current long-term transit of Haumea conjunct Shapley attractor at 1 degree of Scorpio. How would you interpret that in relation to the collective evolution? Are you familiar with the supercosmic points, as I like to call them? The galactic center, supergalactic center, the great attractor, and Shapley. So Haumea is in conjunction to Shapley at the moment.
Exactly. No, I'm not. So give me that briefly. I will talk about the beginning of I want to talk about the beginning of Scorpio there and her plunge into it. But yes, give me the Shapley attraction.
Yeah. So the way I would tune into it now, as I reflect on it, is how wonderful to see the manifestation of the unity consciousness that Haumea is kind of bringing as a high octave of Neptune, and with it's becoming extra potent because of that 1 degree Scorpio connected to Shapley attractor, which is one of the greatest magnetic invisible forces in our known universe. So everything in our lives sort of is pushing us to connect to the center. And if Haumea is playing on that note of this core invisible driving force in our lives, we are all pushed to return home, return to consciousness, return to our center. I mean, don't we see it everywhere?
Yes, that's really explaining to me the where we are with Haumea in Scorpio there, because Haumea has been in Aries for 30 years or something like that, in Libra for 30 years, and that's been the whole phase of human rights and this individual growth and so on, which we've just come through. And in the last couple of years, there's been the in out of Scorpio, and she's just been sitting at sort of 0 degrees in just a couple of minutes, on her last sort of just a month or two back, retrograde, and now she's moving forward into Scorpio for good. She'll be here for the next 30 years, and we're going through a huge force for change in the world. I think at the moment there's a huge pressure for change, and we see the letting go of the old that's necessary. Some people aren't, and there are some devastating wars happening at the moment in the world, and those wars are all about righteousness, and that's all the sort of Haumea Neptune sort of connection there. And some people are hanging on to the Neptune. They won't let go of their old mythology, their old view of why we're here on the planet. But they have to, otherwise we're all going to perish. And so we're in a period where with Haumea in Scorpio, she's an earth goddess and a fire goddess, Hawaiian Islands myth, and so the islands come up volcanically out of the, and so she's earth and fire, and she's in Scorpio. She's a firebrand. She's going to be actually encouraging us to find that connection, meaning each of us, or attack everyone else who doesn't have the same as ours, because we feel so threatened by them. We just can't.
Beautiful manifestation of this combination of Haumea and Shapley that I've seen very physically and tangibly just in the last couple of days, as I connected with a community here in Ireland that is talking about revealing the truth behind the system, who governs the world, all the secret kind of stuff, and how the system actually works. But now they're approaching it no longer from a upset and let's fight the system approach, not at all, actually coming in peace, acceptance, and let's find a way to live as a side by side for people who want to choose sovereignty and freedom and being responsible for their own affairs, and allowing the system to still hold people who are not quite there yet. So it's the unity consciousness and the truth of our existence, and not letting the differences separate us anymore, but Haumea is coming in there to help us come into unity and peace and solutions and co-creation.
Yes, that's right. We are all one. It doesn't matter that we believe different things.
Quite amazing to see that there.
Yeah, and the sovereignty that you were speaking with in there is Varuna. Just to put that in there. So Varuna is all about this sovereign new understanding of sovereignty, higher octave of
very good. Would anyone be able to comment on where Varuna is at the moment? What's her transit? We would love that. Or if you know, Alan.
I don't hold that information, so
we can ask someone to type it in the comment, and we'll get back to it.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and one more future transit that's coming that Ulrika is curious about is in July 2025, Uranus will be conjunct Sedna and Pleiades as Uranus ingress into Gemini. So there'll be this, it's like Sedna and Pleiades will accompany Uranus ingress into Gemini. What that might mean. What's your perspective?
Exactly. No, I'm looking forward to it, totally. It's going to be a consciousness explosion, is my hope. It's a consciousness explosion. So we've just had Sedna go into Gemini. Huge change. AI, bang, it's real. And Sedna's discovery event, neural networks were discovered in the same year. So Sedna's just gone into Gemini. We are going to, what is AI going to do? It's going to take all of our work. Last time Sedna was at this closest point to the Earth and the Sun that she's at the moment, was 11,406 years ago. That's the big size of the orbit. And we had the Neolithic Revolution, where we stopped hunting animals and started growing vegetables. Suddenly we had more time on our hands, and all of our civilization has come from that point. We're at another point where we're going to have a lot of time on our hands. And how are we going to use that time, and how conscious are we of what we can do with it, and so on. And so that's the Sedna in Gemini. It's a 50-year, 40-year transit. She's moving as fast as she ever does. Sometimes she's thousands of years in each sign. But Uranus coming up is really going to catalyze that, I think, in some way. And it'll be an AI sort of catalyzed thing. We're already experiencing it. Sedna went into Gemini, and Google called their AI Gemini. So it's
amazing connection.
yes. And so what I'd say in relation to that and the Haumea is Haumea's just changed sign, I think in conjunct to Sedna, and Pluto's just changing sign, and that's trine to Sedna, and no, is it the Pluto one that's in conjunct? Someone will have to give me those. Anyway, those three planets are doing a dance where Pluto's pushing us into a new collective consciousness there in Aquarius, and Sedna's pushing us into a new personal consciousness in Gemini. And Haumea is bringing the social scorpionic deep meaning. How's it all working together? That this is this change that we're in. So it's a huge evolutionary change that we're in.
Absolutely. And we can certainly see it on social media circles, the amount of people that are yearning to find the truth of their soul expression, people searching for their soul purpose and soul alignments, and all these modalities are popping up to allow people to go within and start embodying their true soul expression. So, I mean, just a beautiful validation there from the aspects and transits.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Really good. Okay, well, I have one more question for you. How do you delineate the interplay between transiting dwarf planets, conjuncting natal dwarf planets, where you have a combination of different dwarf planets coming together to create something?
Yes, there tends to be sort of karmic periods, let's say, in our lives.
Karmic periods.
Where that particular, whatever transiting planet we're talking about, we need to look at the natal placement to see how that energy is manifest in the life. And then as it goes through the different houses and conjuncts different things, or transits the other planets, that is developed, that aspect, that consciousness is being developed in some way. So if they're conjunct, it tends to be sort of fated times in our lives.
Amazing. So for example, the person that is asking has transiting Orcus in Virgo, conjuncting her natal Haumea in Virgo.
So what's that going to do? So Orcus is about transmuting shadow into light at the top level. That karmic consciousness where we're aware that everything that we do has a result, and the more we do that, we realize, well, the better we can point that result, the more light we can generate in the process, the better it's going to work. So definitely a karmic time with Orcus conjunct Haumea, where if there's always shadow everywhere. And so it's Haumea will be bringing the psychic rejuvenation necessary to work with that, to empower that Orcus transmuting shadow into light there.
Very good. And would you then look at the natal position of the transiting planet to see if that energy kind of extend to the mix?
Yeah, the transiting planet is how we're developing that energy, how we're growing it.
Makes sense. Beautiful. So, question that kind of connects to this that popped up from Carla: what happens when we have two dwarf planets in conjunction in our natal chart with a personal planet? Again, quite.
So this is beautiful. What happens? So they're ethereal planets. These new ones. They're outside of Pluto, and Dane Rudger tuned us in with these higher octaves. I'm talking about them being higher octaves. That's a way of, we know the inner planet and we can think of the outer one as being a higher octave of the inner planet, a more spiritual level version of that energy. But Dane Raja reminded us that the outer planets act on the inner planet. It's not like, oh, I've got the inner planet and oh, it's a spiritual more. Yes, it is. But it's also the outer planet is acting on the inner planet and repolarizing that inner energy. And so it's the same when you've got a conjunction of an outer planet with an inner planet. The outer planet is actually kind of repolarizing that inner planet, tuning it into the more ethereal energies, so you will have thought of that inner planet as being kind of more ethereal in one of the ways or both the ways of the planet, the outer planets that are.
That's brilliant. That makes sense. I love that perspective. Thank you.
Good.
Okay. Right. So shall we look at some of the chart examples that you have?
It's beautiful. So I think this is you to start with, huh?
Yes.
And you've talked about how you related to the fifth house placement. Yeah. And you've also got Marky there in the fifth. So you know, there's a rich sort of understanding. You've got both very playful planets, so playful with the divine, understanding that play is the best way to approach the divine. And that house is such a beautiful house from that point of view, a playful house, joyful house, and so on. So lovely placements. And so then we look at your aspects to see how your Haumean energy is sort of tied into your other sides, your personality and your consciousness and so on. So opposite Mercury, we're having here trine Chiron, squaring Moon and Varuna. So very, I'm going to say powerful. Moon-Varuna conjunction in the sense that Varuna is, I say, sort of mastery consciousness. We develop that mastery through a sovereignty, and sovereignty is a dance between ourselves and the collective consciousness. And we have to say, I can do something, and other people have to say, yes, I see you can do that. Can you do it for me? You know, we see in this community that you've gathered in your work, we see that Varuna very strongly, where you know you're able to claim the sovereignty, and people value that in you, and that's coming through because of the conjunction with the moon in the first house there, where it's at the center of you, and you're able to sort of to mediate it in each moment with the moon there, and connect with people and so on, and bring the wisdom that Varuna has to that particular immediacy. Now, the square is key, I think, with Haumea here in terms of, because the squares are, you know, strengths over time. They're challenges, but they become strengths over time. And so there's a real strength that you've developed with that center that I've just described inside you. You're able to interface it with this creative, loving, joyful work that you're doing that's reaching out into the collective consciousness.
I really have to say that joyful creativity and playfulness is the thing that always gets me out of any funk, you know, when you feel just stress about everyday things. If I can always, I am reminded, I believe, through this placement very quickly. It just, I have like minutes of getting down and like, where is the joy? Where is the joy here? How can I grasp it in my current experience? And immediately it brings me back to alignment. So I can thank Haumea here for that.
That's absolutely right. And we can all thank you and this opposition to Mercury in the 11th here for you being able to bring it out into the collective consciousness and articulate it in that sort of Mercury way that's needed to bring messages across to people, you know.
Thank you.
physical level.
There's one more note that I wanted to share with the community on my 10th house, and seeing Gong Gong there and Salacia, or however you pronounce it, where people often comment on the feeling of love and kind of mother, a sense of a mother that they may sense coming from me. And when I saw the Gong Gong there as higher octave of Salacia, the empathic consciousness, and Salacia, the higher love consciousness, high octave of Venus and Mars. So I just want to share with the community that I think this is what they're tuning into, and that's what they're sensing, and that's how it comes through. It was just nice to see it there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're able to bring across to people, to interface it with people with very strong both those planets there. Absolutely. But I think it's also coming from your Haumea here and the opposition to Mercury, you know. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one then. There's a few more charts that want to be shared. Thank you, Alan.
That's right. It's beautiful. Ursula, are you with us? We want people here so that we can talk about them.
I'm here.
I'll just create your chart for you.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. While you're doing that,
yeah.
just want to say thank you for your university and for the vibrations going through Astrology Hub, through circles like with Linda Bird and Amanda. It's nice to finally see you in person. Many of my friends have taken your classes.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful. Thanks for giving that feedback. Yes, perhaps I could talk about the classes as I just do this. So I do run the Dwarf Planet University, and we have 6-week classes where you study your own chart and you do assignments and so on that. Now, just give me your birth date here for a moment there. All right, so what would I say in relation to that? I better have something to say now. So what we're looking at opposite here is the moon and your part of fortune, yeah? And up here we've got Mars and Orcus, and here we've got Neptune. So you've got I'm going to say, I think that's beautiful. The opposition with your moon and part of fortune is beautiful. We don't tend to think oppositions are beautiful, but just in terms of sensitizing you to this Haumea energy, 12th house can be hard to access. With the opposition to the moon, I think you're probably reaching for that sort of connection with the psychic unity and finding the opportunity to do that. Sometimes not, and sometimes, and that's the opposition, finding that balance between your personal needs and the deep spiritual needs that you have. And then obviously into this kite, Neptune here, spiritual consciousness, Uranus, Mars, Orcus here. You've got you can, what work do you do? What do you have a profession, or what do you?
Painting and galactic astrology, but a very serious painter of the figure, and cosmic portraiture is coming online.
Beautiful. Yes. So this is both of these things manifest here with the Mars Orcus, where you're able to you've got a huge resourcefulness and an ability to sort of upcycle existing art or ideas into new light-filled understanding or social activities anyway up there. And the grand trine with Neptune and your moon here is all about that. You're bringing that across to people, particularly your service. The galactic astrology, your creative is also a service. The creative work can also be seen as a service. So that's what the kite is talking about. It's talking about how you're able to sort of connect with the deeper meaning and bring it across to people in your daily routine, in your service, and in that sort of connect people with a spiritual consciousness and work with them to release stuff. I mean, that's what art does. It sort of connects with people on a deep level and enables them to release stuff and you know, bring light to something. So that's what I'd say.
That's beautiful. May I just add quickly? I love seeing Salacia. Hold on, let me just change the view here. I love seeing in Ursula's chart Salacia in her 4th house and Gong in her 5th house, knowing that she's a mother to many children, but also just naturally becoming this mother figure within our community, holding space for the newbies, for the youngsters, and making sure that they feel safe to be here and to express. And so Salacia opposing her Mars, natal Mars, and Orcus in the 10th house, when she comes out as a public figure, she's drawing that frequency from the opposition of Salacia. And then Gong there in the 5th house, if in connection to us as a children. I just think that's really awesome. But higher love octaves,
yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to go hide in the 12th house. Thank you so much, Alan and Julia.
You've done well. You did well coming and being out, because we all learned from it. So you helped us all. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get back to play from current slide. There I am. And Hector.
So for anyone watching this from outside of our community, Hector is the gentleman who helped to create the Galactic Astro Chart Calculator for our entire community, and doing it so selflessly and just joyfully and always with love in his heart. So I just thought the community would like to see where his dwarf planet placements are.
And are you with us, Hector, or?
Probably not.
Probably not. All right. So here we've got Haumea in the 6th, conjunct the South Node. So bringing a lot of spiritual connection into this life from past lives. And you know, opposite the North Node. So this is doing something in the collective unconscious, in doing something spiritual in the world. Often hard to find that what to do with the North Node in the 12th, but it just evolves over time. It sounds like you're making a wonderful contribution. I'd put that down to this connection with the nodal axis with Haumea there.
Really good. And is it possible that, yet again, the connection of Salacia and Gong as the higher octaves of love in his 11th house, where he has a desire to offer his everyday actions, everyday service for the collective betterment, for the collective evolution. So his love expression is channeled into the collective. Isn't that interesting to see there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, beautiful. I love it that you're bringing our attention to Salacia and Gong. They're so crucial in terms of coming out from ourselves to the new world that we're living in, and helping everyone with that. Yes, at the top level, both of them. They're so good. And the 11th house, yeah, beautiful placement for participatory. The thing with Gong, participatory, so beautiful. That's the whole thing with this community work that we're needing to do more and more.
Cool.
And that's why I've discovered them now. Yeah.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Should we move on to Joshua? Are you with us?
He is. And just a quick introduction, Joshua is helping me personally to develop the support for the community for the last, I think, year and a half. And it's just been such a wonderful, wonderful addition to the community in terms of the replies and the support and the channeled wisdom that comes through. And again, from a very beautiful, compassionate place in his soul. So I wanted to share his.
Beautiful. Yeah. Lovely, Joshua. Hi.
Yeah.
There you are. Beautiful. Lovely. Lovely to see you. Thanks for putting your chart forward and for that work you're doing. Beautiful.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. It's awesome.
Oh, that's good to hear. Lovely. So what can we see here? Finding Haumea? Yes, here in the 11th. They actually come to an 11th house placement. So a sort of a very community-oriented placement for Haumea. And a sort of there's a rich bounty for you with that 11th house placement. I mean, were you relating to the 11th house interpretation as I went through it earlier, or?
Yes, definitely. It's actually a conjunct Black Moon Lilith in the mean calculation as well. It's at 26 degrees, so quite a close conjunction there. So I was wondering your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I haven't studied Black Moon Lilith, so I can't really help you with that. Somebody, you give me.
If I may,
somebody,
if I may,
thanks.
because something immediately popped in, and that is you finding a way to express your true desire for unity consciousness, for the betterment of all, with a sense of almost rebellion that Lilith can come with in her final calculation, that the mean Lilith in our calculator is. So just go for it when you want to. And you do it already through your posts. If anyone, especially on Facebook, if we see your latest musing, I mean, so spot on and really quite just bold like a Lilith would, in an amazing wisdom way, you know?
That sounds beautiful. There's a real creativity with Haumea and a sort of a spiritual energy that's kind of pouring through there, and it sounds like you're able to sort of articulate that, use that in some way, and
in
so
a practical sense too,
which is so important in these times that we're living in. So.
And looked, so then the square to Varuna in Gemini, all about sovereignty, so supporting us through your post in that you really kind of pondered that, how to become sovereign and liberated. And then square to Saturn, Uranus, is it? No, it's 27 degrees. What is the square there? So a square to Venus, isn't it, in Sagittarius?
Venus, yep, it's a Venus, yep, beautiful, square to Venus. I mean, that is that's the higher octave and the lower octave square one another there. So it's Venus, Neptune, Haumea are the octaves here. And so Haumea is repolarizing Neptune, Neptune's repolarizing Venus. Here you've got you've got the challenge to bring this sort of spiritual richness that you experience in the world, in your contact with people in the world, and to bring it into your values and your relationships, to make it practical in the world, in the second house. You know, to even sort of make a living out of it or something. You know, it's that sort of practicality with the Venus in the second and that square. And over time, it's a strength. It becomes, you can do that. That you know, the Venus isn't kind of scared of that spiritual power that you know, disrupts her neat little world. You know, and so you embody that and so on. So yeah, very, very powerful placement. Opposition to Ceres, able to so that's a grand cross, isn't it, there? And so able to nurture yourself and others through this connecting with the spiritual center, by focusing on joy and love and so on in that nurturing process. And yes, you develop a sovereignty through that, which sovereignty in the 8th house there, so it's an occult sovereignty. It's a spiritual sovereignty that you can develop, and it's amazing with Varuna. It's a matter of doing the work, of stepping up and saying, you know, I'll try, I'll do it, you know. And it sounds like you're doing it. So I encourage you. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, Julia, that you've put people forward who you know, I know, and we can talk about. It's so I think
makes
rich.
sense. Really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Joshua. So beautiful. And do we have one more? Yes, I think. Or is there two more? No, just the last one. So, Margot, are you with us?
I thought she was earlier. So Margot is also our support team member. Also very creative, beautiful heart, humble heart. And I just wanted to offer her this gift as a thank you for being just such a wonderful support. And Kelly's here too, who could equally. So I suppose, well, let's do Margot, and if we have time, we can bring Kelly's chart in too.
Absolutely. Margot, what we're looking at is Haumea
yes.
here in the eighth house. So a beautiful Haumea and Maki in the eighth, very lovely. Both, as I say, playful, in contact with the divine, and we're talking about the eighth house, which is the deep and meaningful house, the divine in a way, and so a lovely placement for Haumea.
Trine sextiles to lunar nodes.
Is it it is sextile and trine the nodes, exactly, which is a beautiful, I mean, that turns the nodal axis into an easy opposition. The nodal axis doesn't want to be an easy opposition, but it just, what it's talking about is being that Haumea is like a handle on how you can move from your karma to your dharma, and you're enabled in that process through the bounty of Haumea, through the oneness and the magic of Haumea. As you look at the Haumea, it's sort of all flows to Haumea, with beautifully placed. I mean, sometimes flows we just don't do it, but because it's to the axis, the nodal axis, beautifully placed. Now, the sort of evolutionary possibility is this biquintile from Haumea to wow, that's a Mercury Salacia third house cusp conjunction. You've got an opportunity to interface this oneness of existence that you feel, and you feel it sort of philosophically, you feel it educatively here in the ninth house, and that you're able to interface that with your ideas and your communication and your connection with people, your psychic connection, your sexual connection, but at a higher level, your psychic connection with people there through that biquintiles. Biquintiles have to be developed actively, and they don't just work. And so the more you engage with people in a higher love way and talk or write or do something like that, then the more you can bring across the wonderful magic of life to people.
Really good. It's beautiful how Margot was inspired recently to start creating this beautiful bedtime cosmic stories where she takes people on a journey to different star systems. So the Aquarian element there, and the Virgo and the eighth house going into the subconscious, and offering it from a place of love, seeing Salacia there and Gong Gong also. So just lovely manifestation.
Yeah. And the opposition Gong Gong to Maki, giving that big perspective and understanding of how to engage with people and bring it across. Nice. Beautiful.
We're reaching the 2 hours, and there are so many more comments and messages and different aspects.
We can take a little more, but yes, sure. Yeah, so bring in any new questions. Perhaps I'll stop the share, so we'll come back to being us. And
So
if there's anything,
here's one nice one from Eleanor. I'm interested in knowing more about the opposition as well. For example, when a higher octave of Aries opposes the lower octave of Pluto, the big sister and little brother dynamics.
Yes. Well, the oppositions are balances that we need to achieve in our lives. Yeah. We can think we're born in the middle of the chart, and so they're pulling in opposite directions in our lives. They're working in opposite houses. And so we need to, with the opposition, we need to Pluto to Haumea. I mean, it's powerful as an opposition, because obviously the Pluto is dissolving the ego, and Haumea is connecting us with the oneness of existence. And what have we got when we've got the ego dissolved? We've only got the oneness of existence, really. That's all we've got. And so that opposition is probably bringing that to her awareness in each moment, in each experience in her life, and over time developing that ability to interface change with rejuvenation.
Really good. Thank you. Great question, or interesting question here from Jennifer. If you're here, what would you say about interceptions? If this question wasn't answered yet, it wasn't. Jennifer, do you mean when the dwarf planets are positioned in the intercepted house? Let's say even with no planets, it feels like the zodiac sign in the intercepted house is somewhat suppressed in the earlier years. A lot of wisdom is gathered. So now when you are seeing the dwarf planet there, you can receive greater richness about the meaning of that interception. Have you looked at interceptions, Alan?
Yes and no. I mean, I do in the case studies that I work with. What I would say, yes, I would agree. Intercepted planets, we have to kind of feel our way into understanding the energy. It's not manifesting.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to have to mute whoever is not muted.
Are we good? Yes.
Oh, good, yeah.
So yes, we're not feeling the energy manifest directly with the intercepted planets. So we have to sort of feel our way into them. It's a bit like a sort of a 12th house in the sense that we can't directly experience it, but we by being sort of more sensitive. So it's like an extra challenge for us with that placement.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
There were just the two charts that were actually three charts that were sent a few moments before we started the call.
Yes.
So we answered the first one on the empty houses. The lady had so many, Marie had so many empty houses, and now it feels like her chart has suddenly come alive, especially with Silesia and Gong Gong in her 8th house. And just appreciation for your courses, your book that she loves reading at this time.
That's lovely. Totally lovely. Yes.
Okay, so and there was the question, what is the time frame and impact of returns in the natal chart for outer planets? I have Power 4th house and Ixion 5th house, both as returns as per AstroSeek.
Yes,
so I'm not sure what you mean by that.
We already, I think, talked about that one where we can't actually.
That is probably an error.
I think so. Beautiful. Yes, so we could look at these other couple of charts that have come in. Are those people here? So
actually, those two charts that were sent, they are, and they sent them because they couldn't make it.
they couldn't make it. In that case, I think we probably won't do them now,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah, there was one from Tara. She's here, Quantum Sunrise, California. I can share it in from the chart that you sent me. If you hold on, I'll share my screen.
Please.
Okay, here we are. Oof, the busy chart. I'm not sure if you can navigate this software, but here on the left side, she highlights the important alignments. So let me see. Haumea has 11 aspects to other chart points.
Okay. I'm just
you hear?
making my yes, I'm just making my screen bigger so I can see it. Beautiful. So we're finding Haumea. So we're looking at symbols for Haumea, and
she's there in Virgo conjunct Venus.
yes, that's what I was just looking at. Beautiful. Yes, so Virgo conjunct, so Haumea conjunct Venus. I mean, again, beautiful conjunction in the sense that Venus, lower octave of the triplicate octaves there, Haumea, Neptune, Venus. So you've got that personal sort of joy, that personal sense of how you like it, together with your spiritual connection with the oneness of the world, of everything. And so it's a beautiful conjunction. Venus, you know, they really sort of go together in terms of sort of being out in nature and sort of doing that sort of enjoying the world, the natural world. And then in the third house, I'm thinking very creative, expressing yourself with words in communication, writing, or something like that. So, can you give me some feedback? Do you work with expression, creative expression in some way?
Well, yes, I'm in doing this work in the galactic astrology. It's a lot about the communicating through, you know, to the client and finding that creative way to give sometimes difficult information. Yes.
And information that may be difficult for someone to hear or to understand, as they, you know, and I think that's so. Is this an opposition with your moon? I'm thinking here, kind of wide, in fact, but it is an opposition with your moon in the ninth there, which is enabling you to bring this across to people. Yeah, it's how to do that. It's definitely a skill, totally. And what else have we got in terms of aspects? So squaring, you'll have to help me here a little bit because I'm
Vesta, I think.
Vesta, it's square Vesta. And what have we got here? A sextile to Mercury, is that there? Yeah, beautiful. And a trine to North Node. So very beautiful in terms of that nodal axis connection. Not seeing the sextile to the South Node, but maybe it's just that aspect is not drawn. So, and the square to Mercury, again, so opposition to the to the moon, and it's not actually T square to Mercury, is it? So it's a square to Mercury. It's probably coming from the Venus, in fact, in that case. But the conjunction is close. So when they're conjunct, you've got that square. So what I'm saying is the opposition to the moon and the square to Mercury in the 5th is enabling you to, in that I could just tell by how you were talking about your communication process that you're very sensitive to the other in that communication process, which is what is important in communicating something. Actually, it's a matter of getting it through from us to the other, and a lot of us aren't sensitive actually to the other in that way. Gong Gong will also be playing a part in that. Where is your Gong Gong in terms of, is this Gong Gong here? I'm not familiar with these signs, with these symbols. I think that is your Gong Gong there.
Gong Gong is, I'm pointing with my mouse as if you can see it.
Yeah,
I believe it's up in Aquarius there.
Yeah, that's
17.
what I'm looking with like a lightning bolt underneath the surface. Yeah, totally. Yes, Gong Gong is an energetic sort of empathic consciousness, feeling another, and so you've got a strong Gong Gong in terms of that 8th house connection there, really helping with this communication, the sensitivity to other people. Yeah. Do you have questions? Ask me a question, maybe.
Oh, thank you. It resonates. It fits. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's all good.
Beautiful. I just have one more request, just even briefly mentioning Kelly is here, one more important member of our admin support, such valuable, gorgeous, beautiful, joyful soul. And Kelly, you mentioned you have Haumea or Uranus conjunct Haumea. So the transiting Uranus is on your natal Haumea, is that right? And which house? 1st house. Would you like to comment on that? So transiting Uranus on Haumea, 1st house.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, so you're having surprises and new experiences relating to your connection with the oneness of humanity. You're with Uranus conjunct there. So Uranus is awakening us all the time to whatever Uranus is touching, so that we grow in consciousness. And so you're connecting, I mean, coming here, me talking to you about your chart is a manifestation of Uranus conjunct your Haumea there. And the more you can sort of open to the new and to the adventures that are possible in your life, the more you're going to feel really fulfilled and sort of nourished by the connection you feel with the world. And in the 1st house, that's kind of at the heart of you, and so can be hard to access without sort of going inside. But with that Uranus there, you're probably it's happening at the heart of you, but it's also manifesting in events like coming here and so on in your life, where you can bring that out.
Brilliant. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge Kirk's background. Thank you so much for sharing the image of the dwarf planets. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, one of our viewers here, Kirk, has this on his background. So I just wanted to bring it up. So we have Haumea here, Makemake, Sedna, Orcas, different ways how they look.
Yeah. And this is kind of in size order in terms of big to small.
Cool.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. There is a lot of love and appreciation and gratitude for your time and wisdom and just wonderful, wonderful soul that you are, Alan. We're so grateful. Such an honor to have you here with us and answering all these questions. We definitely, I certainly learned a lot, and I just love the examples of charts that we saw. That's such a beautiful validation of how we express and what others feel energetically from us. Astrology is ever so amazing.
Yeah, it is. That's the beauty of it. Oh, and thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you to the community for being here and so on. Really, it's we're in a key phase of growth in terms of the world and each of us, obviously. And it's so important that we do come together and explore these new consciousness energies. And lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Beautiful. I invite you all to unmute yourselves and say goodbye as we close this. And I'll make the replay available within the next few hours in our usual places and share it with the community. So much love and best of luck to you, Alan. Much love on your path ahead.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Alan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Alan. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.